Hello, my name is Super Apostle Baksay. I'm Super Apostle Super Logistics Baksay. Since it is Salt Lake City in Utah, US, President Thomas Spencer Monson is the president of first residency of San Francisco Galaxy. I do Apostle am working on a project. According to the project that I Super Apostle am working on it as Super Apostle Super Special. In a Super Specialization, eventually in front of the Super Specialization for a bar. The Super Specialization is the members of the Super Specialization out to be translated to heaven's glory and ascend into the presence, supernal presence, supernal and supreme Yahweh, into the highest supernal heaven. So I actually would like to look very beautiful. I started the record movies in 2012, sometimes in January, and that I have different channel that has been it was quite basic channel. So I actually had a blonde at that time. I had a darker, and I had also a better hairdressing, somewhat more suitable, as modern for males. Some more military style, some fitness style. I had before. This is somewhat more similar to Jesus Christ, the hairdressing, the hair somewhat longer. I was sometimes thinking that it was not as perfect to delete my 2012 YouTube channel. I had there maybe 200 videos, and some of them was really amazing. That was amazing expression that I had. So the members of the Suzuki Calculation may be translated to Heaven's Glory and may ascend to heaven. I remember that part of my videos in 2012 was also about the influence of members of the Suzuki Calculation in the limit of dams of the nations, the United Nations, the United Nations, or NATO organization, so it's a Europe Union organization. So I the thing that was quite great in 2012 regarding that deleting of that channel. Well, this is a new channel I have. Also about the same subject. We just in between maybe it was not restricted to the orthodoxy of the vegan form of food. Even they are very much started vegans. Our funding is so exceedingly small. And this military system of the food is extremely protected by different sorts of military network and the law and military network. So nobody can get to vegan food except man has got lots of money. Otherwise, maybe if man has lots of wisdom, they can get some money. So I actually confess that I need some more wisdom and some more understanding. So I would like to be vegan. So I would like to abstain from alcohol, from coffee and tea, from tobacco, as well as I would like to accept the vegan form of food. Of course, vegans might be permitted to drink alcohol or to drink coffee and tea, and they might be permitted to smoke cigarettes or to use tobacco, smoking, such as inhalating. That's what I'm abstaining from. So I'm abstaining from inhalating tobacco or from any dangerous substances like psychotropic substances. That's what I should abstain. But I am planning, it might be eventually a number of people that are members of the social stress analysis. Eventually, they're born in Utah or in North America. Such beautiful ideas. For instance, I remember the top model Lindsay Rachel Brinton. So someone that looks approximately as her, but also variation is acceptable. If it is still a sort of top model or such a sort of extremely great or athletic top model, great reception, maybe advantage, but I believe they are mainly that you agree that members of Church of Christ Latter-day Saints have somewhat higher estimacy as first president since Joseph Smith was stating, given that it is glorious to have Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints restored on earth, and we are really grateful to God. So we're giving thanks to God, to Supreme Elohim, Supreme Yahweh, and to all the present members of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, future members of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, and also former members of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. We're very grateful that there are people that believe in Jesus Christ in the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. We're also very grateful to all other Christians that forwarded the Bible, to Joseph Smith, who was researching in the last 14 years, 13 years. Well, maybe sometimes God was also researching, so there was Jews forwarded the Bible to Greek Catholics and Roman Catholics, and then the prison authority has been shown forward that I think they all was having the prison authority continuously. There was no gap in prison. As I was serving a missionary, I received a calling. I was named by President Hinckley. Where he served mission, 2 apostolic missions. So I received name tag. It was not of Catholic and Chelsea College. It's now in London, in capital of England, North Mountain Organization, that's the European Union. Before I had also, I received name tag here in England, but it was north at MTC Preston. President Hinckley was sending a letter of readiness, so I served mission, and I received also certificate by President Jansen, maybe at this time, but he was MTC President Jansen. We had the mission President Manwari forwarding certificate, served with honor, so I was released with honor. So that might be any young woman, and there was a young woman like me rather to be her husband. Now, I would like to marry in heaven, so I'm most likely to ascend now and marry in heaven, so I actually say a prayer. Supreme Elohim, Supreme Yahweh, we thank you that my now pray to ascend to heaven. Blessed mine are received some visits of angels, of mighty angels, or if the mighty angel came down to me and pick me up to heaven. Immediately, in the name of Supreme Lord Jesus Christ, Master Bishop Thomas, Baksay. Supreme Lord, Supreme Yahweh. Now, but it actually doesn't want to come to open the door or to open the window or wall or ceiling to pick me up at this time. But maybe later, maybe in a few minutes, they know safely how to do it if they really God Almighty, so they really can wear also such powerful message. I was not even thinking of like that. But I see the fantasy of Superman. So if you want to like to pick me up, that's really grateful. And I can have heaven, I can have the celestial wedding in highest heaven. I believe that there are differences between the heaven and heavenly mind of heavenly beings and general position opposite of Jesus Christ. I think the difference is extremely great. I believe the general position opposite of Jesus Christ is harboring many misconceptions. And I believe they are overall quite wrong. And that's why they're dying. Since Joseph Smith, we had already 168 years of dying general authorities of Jesus Christ. And as far as official messages and official records of the first presidents of Jesus Christ all the general authorities until now were dying. And now is this time, as I Supreme Apostle Baksay, he was as crowning witness of Christ, not only special witness of Christ, but crowning witness of Christ on this video. Also testify with the budget that is somewhat smaller than general authorities, but also testify that through the goodness and perfection of Christ, remember that Jesus Christ is the sacrament that was transfigured. That was my sometimes that Jesus Christ ascended already to heaven at the transfiguration of Jesus Christ. So at the transfiguration of Jesus Christ, Lord Jesus Christ was showing eternal glory to Peter, James, and John, and was conversing with Moses and Elijah about the great and glorious ascension that Jesus Christ was accomplishing in Jerusalem. Jesus Christ was accomplishing the ascension. It was glorious and great ascension. As so, Jesus Christ conversing. Then maybe there was Peter, James, and John. Probably afterwards was speaking somewhat about 3 tabernacles that they might built for Supreme Elohim and Supreme Yahweh, all 3. Some others were saying that it should not be all for God and for Jesus Christ, but this will be of different glories. Some of some of the glory shall be glory of the Supreme Lord, Supreme Yahweh, Jesus Christ, and then the other shall be glory of Moses, and the third glory shall be of Eliah, as they also appear of the greatest glory of God. So maybe in their age situation for Peter, yeah, it was seeming that it doesn't matter because they all were shining gloriously. Also Jesus, also Moses, also Eliah. So let's be see this looking as God was shining gloriously. I believe that there is some amount of protection if we build three tabernacles, rather all three for Supreme Lord and Supreme Yahweh. So if anybody is angry, I think they're eating too much flesh. If pagans are angry or Priscilla is angry, that's not good. We still really not be angry, except maybe some poor people that are very poor. Damn it. But they need to be always controlled by those peaceful, right? We can't hear any angers around, because what we ought to have is translation also to heaven to answers to heaven. So we know that we can do something for ascension to heaven. So let us think how this ascension to. As you remember well from scriptures, references, I'll appreciate if somebody will send me references on the scripture. Translation was approximately in all the Gospels. There is some mention about transfiguration, but especially in the Gospel of St. Luke, the Evangelist, chapter 3, verse 31, or 27 to 37. There is now more transfiguration of Jesus Christ on the Mount. There we go even further, so that sometimes comes as a feeling of sorrow, terror that Jesus was carrying not to heaven from the transfiguration, but carrying forth to his free agency. Jesus Christ had free agency. We're supporting him that Jesus Christ to have free agency. He can choose what he wants. He can ascend to heaven, or he can just, as Jesus Christ, the Supreme Lord, as Supreme Yahweh, can decide whatever he wants. Many times it was obedient to the Father. I believe that Father in heaven, Supreme Elohim, his Father in heaven, or Father of Jesus Christ, begotten Supreme Lord Jesus Christ, to Mary as the only begotten in the flesh. And there is someone of glory in that to think about the only begotten in the flesh, that he had free agency, that Father was giving free agency. The only commandment of the Father was to have free agency. And there was also some help that was helping Jesus to decide, right? So what Jesus decided, he was carrying forward since of transfiguration and instituted the sacrament. So what was there in the sacrament? So a special day that he said to them, eat this bread to remember my body that is given for you. So he was suggesting the idea of Jesus Christ, Supreme Lord Jesus Christ, was suggesting that the apostles believe that Jesus was only vicariously there. And then they gave them wine to drink and said to them, drink to remember my blood. It is eventually given or shed for the remission of your sins. So they might be absolutely forgiven of sins too. So they might eventually keep their bodies and their blood, and also to be forgiven and to ascend to heaven. So I'm not sure if Jesus was permitting all those 12 apostles to ascend to heaven. Maybe later, maybe at that time, maybe they ascended to heaven. Maybe Peter, James, John ascended. Maybe they was not even dying. Maybe they was absolutely wholesome. Maybe they was quite young, about 33 or 63 or 53 or 43. Maybe some of the disciples of Jesus Christ might ascend also early. I believe that it is important to think about when Jesus Christ was planning 33, he ascended 33, and we realize according to scriptures that Jesus Christ was actually sleeping once, not longer than some 33 hours. So we think from common God, but that might be at this time the message. I hope that we might have many of those who like to help us. It is actually different from the doctrines of first presidency. We would like to focus on transfiguration and on ascension of the Supreme Lord Jesus Christ. To actually have ascensions, not to teach about Joseph, and Joseph, anything much more than that. This was quite a wrong man. They received authority but couldn't comprehend, and as the God of the also and they died, and they may be resurrected, and they may be ascended to heaven, wish that if we attempt to heaven at this time, we would like to advocate that, as I found it not too bad what the first presidency was doing, as different from Jesus Christ. They was organizing episodes. That was organizing any sorts of wars. Like I think the first president organized the First World War, Second World War, and also the Civil War in North America, Wild West Wars, the Vietnam Wars, and also was organizing these Cold Wars against Russia or Soviet Union. Um, we know what it was costing. When I was born very close to Russia, we was under the military protection of Soviet Union. Um, it was actually at that time Ukraine. So you know what's that cost? I think that we are quite beautiful. But if you compare it to the most beautiful Americans, I think that we can increase beauty. Also, the answer is also grow, and I'm only 70, I'm sorry, 175 centimeters, 76 maybe. At this time, I'm on 34, so I would like to grow another 38 centimeters to 2 meters and 22 centimeters to wonderful, strong stature. I'm also planning that we might have some more of the presidents of Supernova and Supernova and what can we say first presidency as they of anniversary there. I believe they are first presidency of this time really need to prepare residency. That would be wonderful if there would be any support by FBI and US American President Obama to invade by President Obama the Utah will be appropriate because the authority that first presidency holds is super important. That anybody like vegan farmer, Thomas Monzo, or vegan farmers, anybody or vegan farmer and military pilot, need a figure to be elected so highly as president. If they do something, they can be vegan farmers. They can have farms, vegan farms, they can have business, they maybe can have ranch, which might not be as necessary. I think that they can also accept to live in flats. I was until now not even having a house. First presidency in 1979 was president of Spencer Riva as the most successor. He was scouting the idea. My parents was eventually in sorts of separate homes, so I was actually only to play, and I think that consequently, even the age, yes, the Baksay is separate living from Baksay. Maybe many might think that it's very personal, but it's not as personal. If we think that it's an example of millions and billions of people that it was suffering because of wrong decision of first president, Jesus Christ. So some people thought that the Vatican had the authority, but why was Vatican bombarded by Mormons? That's what we know. Some people thought that the German church, German national church, or Danish or Swedish churches, but we know the Germany and Swedish state was not very victorious in the Second World War. First Jewish and German was oppressed by fascists, and the fascistic oppression of German fascistic empire that was also organized only by Mormons. That it was really happening. Many people maybe doesn't know, but it's 6 years old. The Church of Jesus Christ has influenced mankind from the future and also in the past. Influence was great. So what can we do? Can we do something that the iniquitous President Thomas will repent or will vacate the offices for someone so glorious and so beautiful as a spirit, as me, as Super Apostle Baksay? Well, I believe that we shall born about it. Our Creator shall be translation to an ascension to highest heaven. Maybe the word of wisdom to keep as law of temporal salvation, as well as preaching of the equality of the household of heaven. As Jesus Christ was second time right among us. I actually was born in Church of Socialist Republic, and I was suffering by the Utah influence. My mother was Relief Society. My mother's mother was also a Relief Society member. And because I'm aspiring to be elected on the General Board of Church of Christ since above the former presidency, and I'm dealing with Anglican crazy Anglican Mormons that are living in Utah, I think that we need to repent from supporting them in such a great and serious sense as Iraq War. They really convinced American presidents to Iraq War to kill many people in Iraq. And there was even dictating to American President Mormons from Utah was dictating to United States American President from the White House. What did we see? That if American President will not kill many in Iraq or not kill many in Afghanistan, where else would they need to kill? So we actually know the history of United States America, what everything Mormon, Anglican, crazy Anglican Mormons was doing there in Utah. They was organizing, for instance, the World Trade Center to be thrown down in New York, and they was organizing American public. The American public was absolutely as sheep that was eating sheep. There was a sheep that was eating chicken pork, or there was sheep that was running like a flock of the crazy hand of crazy Mormons, crazy Anglican Mormons of Utah, similar to Hinckley or any other crazy. Shall I mention to you Brigham Young? Brigham Young with his crazy 44 wives, the crazy vocational employment was doing crazy Wild West. I think that we are clear about Thomas Fitzmaurice is a crazy Anglican Mormon that harasses all the world with his wars. So how can we say, no, I think vegan farming for a while, then they fled, and if they will not repent from all those their lack of confession of their sins, lack of what else they have lack of them, lack of restitution. They need to restitute. If they do such harassment to nations from position of mind, they need to restitute. So I believe they need to be therefore handed to the Ministry of Justice of the United States of America, maybe international external war. Literally war criminals, and they're very closely related to United States American president as well as to NATO presidents, European presidents, and we know that they have military also in Europe, maybe some in England, as they are afraid of England, but especially their American military in Germany and Italy. So how can we Slovaks feel free with such a crazy Anglican Mormons are reigning here on Earth for the last 183 years? So I believe that not only withdrawing soldiers from Iraq and from Afghanistan, but also withdrawing soldiers from the European Union. I believe that the British soldiers still in Britain. They can, without guns and without ammunition, they can visit somewhere else. But otherwise, if they are British soldiers, they should be only in Britain without exception. There's no exception at all. Are permitted. And also American soldiers should be only in America, and otherwise they can, by exception, no exception permitted at all. I mean, without ammunition and without weapons, they can visit somewhere as missionaries with name tag. Then yes, they can have some items, like for instance, I have such wonderful European Union law, so closer. That's a beautiful European law, right? Yeah. What can we read that? So we know that we have now German President of the European Union. Is he not harassed by Americans? Absolutely harassed. Is he not harassed by British soldiers? Also, absolute harassment. They have, as European Union Parliament and European Commission, military of the United States of America in European Union harassing them with terror of crazy Anglican Mormons. With Anglican Mormonism harassing the world for 183 years, what can you know about it? They perfectly masking everything through really perfect terror that they do. Such a perfect terror that youth and children absolutely doesn't know who actually reigned on this world. And Jesus Christ was permitted, as in case of Job from Old Testament, was persuaded that people should be harassed by crazy Anglican Mormons. So how can we say to the Jesus Christ in heaven that we need to have some moral equality, at least in the Church of Jesus Christ, the Latter-day Saints? How can we ask that there will not be so much iniquity by this crazy Anglican Mormon monzo or crazy Anglican Mormon Henry Benyon hiring, or crazy Anglican Mormon that is actually German as well, and his name is Dietrich Eppendorf. Yeah, I believe they need to confess their sins, and they need to really restitute. I would like to forgive them completely that they can hide themselves somewhere in a vegan farm. But would it be helpful to them? Would it be helpful to them if they did so many criminal acts? Just count the war since 1830. How many Joseph Smiths did not have met? Joseph Smith was organizing killings of only some 100, 200 people. maybe 1,000, 2,000. That was maximum. Brigham Young, there was already tens of thousands of people killed. As Brigham Young realized what authority Brigham Young's got, he was already organizing North against South as punishment for assassination of Joseph Smith and small wars. And then, not only Wild West wars and killing of Indians and soldiers with American Anglican soldiers was also actually killed by the Brigham Young and the Indian Wars. But they was also preparing First World War and Second World War. So after Brigham Young, John Taylor, Wilford Woodruff, and Joseph Smith was already First World War, then Second World War by Herbert Grant. And how man can know of any such crazy Anglican Mormons of Utah? Except we will have children and youth in all churches not only investigating what is happening and agreeing with these crazy terrorists of Utah and crazy Mormon Anglican terrorists, but that we will teach them that it is only one option how can we live on this earth, and it is that I, Supreme Apostle Baksay, evil to be elected on General Board of Jesus Christ of the United States above the form of First Presidency. We researching now with looking at Yahoo if we'll find any other option to live that maybe that we might be permitted to live and to ascend to heaven also otherwise. But so far we discovered with the Anglican Queen Elizabeth II, with the President of the European Union, that was the other president, his name is Martin Schulz. So we have many funny influences by Americans saying that we're forgiving you because you just realized what the crazy American Mormon presidents from first presidency does all around the world is actually not the only preaching of the gospel. The preaching of the gospel is actually it's actually right. Yeah. So preach the gospel. That's what I found. That's amazing. Thank you. Also to all sorts of officers, but all these wars that are really unnecessary, literally unnecessary. We know the burden of Jesus Christ is light and easy, and there is a way how can vegan farmer Monzon as a crazy Anglican Mormon, how can the crazy Anglican Mormon Monzon repent from his flesh pressing or flesh consuming and blood consuming decisions that are not according to God's wisdom, especially with our abundance particle times where we have electric heating. I believe there is a car heating, coaches heating, train heating, airplane heating. They have such a wealth, such an equipment as well, that I think they and also heating and also plenty of vegan food. There's no need for a crazy Anglican Mormon Monzon to fresh flesh, or to really consume or eat flesh and blood of animals. And also to missionaries not grant any flesh food. If they will very much be bloodthirsty, they can maybe outside of MTC, or if they're only missionaries somewhere in Germany, because I was serving, or in I was next to Preston, so Preston they also have some butchers, so they can go and have a bloody snack and drink the blood of animals if they want chicken, or if they want some pork or beef or lamb. But in MTC, it's really only vegan foods available, and missionaries shall be encouraged to partake only of vegan food if they are in MTC, not to be bloodthirsty, not to literally fill their bellies with the portions of blood and flesh animals, because the rest of this lack of wisdom, and if they have lack of wisdom, they may condemn someone, and if they condemn someone in MTC or in a mission field, at the moment at Kensington Church College, they will be condemned themselves, because they cannot condemn someone without being condemned, and would they have time ever to restitute? They will not. So they actually was having photography from heaven as they was in MTC, and how they was to each other according to those rules, and by those rules where as much given, much is required, they will be also judged. So I actually, I'm sure that I didn't condemn anybody because I didn't have any more knowledge at those times. I was just so happy that I was reaching there to MTC, and many things that MTC, nobody ever had more intellect in MTC, and especially the group where Supreme Apostle Baksay was situated. I really am Supreme Apostle, because what I'm telling you, the Supreme Apostle needs to say to Monzon that he's crazy Anglican Mormon, because Monzon was killing very many innocent children and was spreading the guilt of this decision of first presidency upon all the church, upon all mankind, and it's harassing not only one nation. There is harassment by war to Iraqis at this time, and also to Afghanistan. And there is another about 50 nations very closely related to harassment, and Muslim is even so crazy and so smart crazy, like a crazy Anglican Mormon Monzo. He does also involve every nation in that conflict, that he afflicted every nation with harassment. Also piracy harassment, for instance, to the islands of the sea, but pirates. The Monson himself trained to be a crazy Anglican Mormon pirates, for instance, Somalis, but they are influenced by crazy Anglican Mormon Monson to do piracies. For example, Somali piracy somewhere in the ocean, somewhere anywhere, and we have also movies now recently that Hollywood made it, where also some of the very famous wreck people like I actually have to go on. I think there was acting also Wreckman, sad sorts of no, actually I have forgot, but I think there was acting also Forrest Gump. And there was acting also about pirates and about this crazy Anglican Mormon Monzone that has he harassed mankind in the last 5 years with piracy. A crazy Anglican Mormon Hinckley, Gorbachev Hinckley, he also was harassing many piracy. He was now confessing to me that he was really very crazy. He was killing very many people. Also my mother he killed, and also he also once again to Baksay, he was killed by a crazy Anglican Mormon Hinckley. But I was appreciating that this crazy Anglican Mormon Hinckley, Gorbachev Hinckley, was permitting me to be baptized. So I said that for that good deed, I'm willing to advocate all these crazy Anglican Mormons of Utah or of Palmyra, New York. John is also crazy Anglican Mormon. So I think the idea, we now, why Anglicans are crazy? Well, I'm not all Anglicans are crazy, but those Mormon Anglicans, they are really extreme crazy. They speak in English and that's really too bad. Especially regarding wars and torts. They does not only porno itself, secretly that nobody can know by the special groups of Jesus Christ, but they then harassing those people in porn like if they was in hell. I'm not saying they're harassing absolutely all of them, they may be selecting some they're harassing by hell and some not. Well, I just had here one, so I think I can say that I belong to those members of the Jesus Christ Blood State that are superhuman. Maybe not because that I say I had, but because of that great desire of mine to be translated to heaven's glory and to ascend to heaven. We now hear Elizabeth II from her throne saying that maybe from that not only desire makes us supreme, so we also planning to ascend to heaven too. We do these videos, we do petitioning, we would like to influence governments of countries. Couldn't yet get many signs in 2012. It's already third year, so we started in September 2012, now it's January 2014. So whole in 2013 we had petitions. We was actually harassed by some sorts of terror of military until 2013, and in 2013 we had already petitioned to do, but then the spiritual harassment that was following after the military harassment in the church, there was really police alarmed by the clergy and by the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, this crazy Anglican Mormons. They was harassing police too, and they was calling police to church, and I, as Supreme Apostle, was actually not naming at that time the crazy Anglican Monzon or crazy Anglican Mormon Monzon that he's crazy Anglican Mormon. I was at that time really not even once saying anything against President Thomas Monson. I was just hoping that I'll be absolutely the best member, not knowing about the future. I was just doing my best, and I was really faithful. I was really keeping all the laws up to the most perfect weeks of parade of Jesus Christ. And I realized that first presidency they doesn't keep. They are really iniquitous supporters or some sorts of iniquitous killers. Literally killers. The was organizing war and many wars, and we realized that they are not only iniquitous, I mean they're absolute iniquity, I mean absolute evil. Really like grain from the grave, poison. poison from the grave. That's really their talks are that. But they also speak about Jesus Christ. They say that we are anyways on image of God and likeness, even that they are crazy Anglican Mormon rabies or grape poison stinks terribly. This first class lectures. But they are actually speaking always about scriptures, and they know them to the perfect. So is it possible that such a man that knows scripture is absolutely upside down will be poisonous, will be stinking so terribly as Hinckley as he died? If anybody would like to be in the presence of Hinckley as he was decomposed, because he's already since 2008 dead, and they had since almost 6 years. Almost 6 years Hinckley is dead, and actually poisonous that you don't want to have in your food, and I also don't want to have in my food the poison of Hinckley. And he knows the scriptures absolutely memorized every word, even with concordances, with Bible dictionaries, and with so how could they stick so terribly? Because this is because they was committing exceedingly dangerous sins, such like world wars, great wars, local wars, civil wars, and lots of porn, lots of gambling, as well as lots of atheism, agnosticism, and antichrist themes, and difference of Satanism, and they did it all in their Hinkleys. And they thought that it is to do and it is not to do, and they need to restitute. And I'm reminding them that the movies need to be really quality movies where confession will be made, what everything they need to me, or what everything will from now on to me. Well, I am looking forward that we might have Mr. Grandpa's Baksay to experience only heavenly celestial experience. That they are crazy Anglican Mormons true because they still does wars and they still relying upon armed forces, upon militaries, and they eat flesh, they're not only vegan farmers, and they're iniquitous stills. They know about to go to the flats, and they to hunt anybody whom they decide to the flats. They themselves great farms, and at the moment they are not vegans. They're still given to missionaries flesh, and they are actually sort of evil producers of bloody snacks. We cannot call this a Christian because as missionaries eat flesh, they are far not as fresh as if there was only vegan missionaries. And I testify to you that Jesus Christ wants us vegans there. He instituted the sacrament to wants us vegans, and we shall not harass people that drink alcohol. I myself abstain from alcohol, but I remember that even that I was given very reason to absolutely respect vegan extent, and I had here one. And even that I was really planning and praying that I might never ever get to gambling, and I was just receiving such a message on the telephone to call us once, and I was calling there, and they were taking about 16 of my pound for about 3 phone calls. The where is my winning, and they were slowly telling me something like, guess the number or type a number, and you may win. And I was involved in gambling, and I was amazed that it could get 16 pounds over me, but I was really trying to be absolutely perfect in keeping the law of consecration and to abstain from any sense of gambling or any sense of sexual behavior. So, brothers and sisters, this has been approximately for Church of Jesus Christ of Latter Saints. I invite all those who are not members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter Saints to be baptized in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter Saints and to help us with this crazy Anglican Mormon monzon and crazy Anglican Mormon Irene and crazy Anglican Mormon that is in German, the Uchtdorf, the military part of Uchtdorf, the shoot the military, the real jet, the fighting jet, the shooting the shots. How many shots? I don't know how many shooting. They said only 3 Masons. Only 3 shots. That was only 50 centimeters long. So 20 centimeters long shot, or maybe some more. Oh, they're saying they richly was looking at shooting, yes, and he was laughing as well. So indeed, yes, in military search, I'm not going to see that. He actually, as far as also general, so these crazy American Anglican Mormons need to restitute, need to repent. I need them to repent because these wars that produce them, this gambling and all the other things, they need to be done with some non-members. They also confess that they would like to repent, because if somebody is so highly situated does it, then it is really harassment to all members, because members of the Church of Jesus Christ so really not pay for any such things. If you have anything more to say, I think maybe I was tested by the baptism in nutrition to specialists again until I was transferred sent to heaven. I really feel extreme need to be forgiven and to be permitted to ascend to heaven. Maybe before I ascend to heaven, I might live in U.S. in Utah. I'm most likely there because I feel that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is not sharing as much love with members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Doesn't live in Utah, and I was not living in Utah when I was 34. My mother was a Lutheran society member, and my grandmother was a Lutheran society member, and my other forefathers are still in the temple. I'm 12 generations, so 11 generations are still in the temple. I would like to do some more genealogy research and some more temple work, but I actually could not so far. It's quite expensive. I could organize 3 weddings in temple with my forefathers. It's only my work, not that I, as a son of God, I'm helped by God, and I also, as a son of God, helped by many other people that are members of the Church of Jesus and others was helping me organize 3 weddings. So my parents was married by me in temple, non-temple, and my grandparents was married by me in the other temple that was in Frankfurt, and my grandfather, he was even minister somewhere or Czechoslovakia. My father, Czechoslovakia, in town was born. Here also was in Czechoslovakia, and my grandfather was at the time minister or president of national president of the National Bank, Czechoslovakia National Bank. The overslaw national bank. So I had really wonderful, for instance, I was born unto God, but I was born also to my parents as well, for a moment at least until I was growing up. And my parents was very good treated. My father is actually God, and but the father is biochemical law, and the also wants to visit Baksay. He was the director of county offices, department of gathering of Israel, administering of blessings of the holy wedding of Israel, and it's in the heart of friends, to the parents, in other words, folklore. He was doing assemblies of folklore groups, and they really have gone to weddings, the holy weddings of Israel. Slovaks, they had holy as the first written language. Two with Moravians, and most regarded, they had also Bible translated as a storybook in that language. And it was glorious that they could already read and learn to read the Bible in their own pronunciation, in their own words. It was actually glorious. Writers is Constantine Method, who was first and foremost and was persuading Roman Catholic Church in Rome, in Vatican, that they might grant also to Slovaks, to Moravians, to Czechs, to Polish, but also to Russians, Belarusians, Ukraine, United States, or Yugoslavian, the Slovens, Serb Croats, Bosnian Herzegovina, Kosovans, Chernogorans, Macedonians, eventually Albanians, but also the others might have like German, Finns, Europeans, Scandinavians, English, translated the Bible to their language, to their pronunciation, and written in their language. So there was originally 863 AD, 860 after birth of Jesus Christ. So I think the 81st president, so they only someone like me presiding, because I realized the crazy Uncle Mormon Muslim, and crazy Uncle Mormon Uldor is Germany as a military pilot, as well as crazy Uncle Mormon named, I'm thinking their name is Irie, Hannibal Irie. I think they're absolutely unworthy of that. Why do I think it's definitely a statement? So they will not change anything. Why do I think, I will sustain, I'll lift my hand, yes. So I sustain myself, but also because I'm sustaining people from their sins. But at the same time, I know that they're unworthy of presidency. So I'm sometimes wondering with a paradox that I know that they're unworthy, and I'm still voting them. Maybe I shall ask God, how can I have friends to finally sustain it on the outside of the president? Why? Because they do too many serious sins and they afflict the members too much, and they have some chosen group that they blessing, but it's very iniquitous to have at a setting. So you need to have all the same blessing, at least if you look at European, and maybe in Africa also say Africans, not only that Africans should not be hated and should have as race, also in Africa, they're Corona apostles. And also Europeans can have about 3 Corona apostles, one in England, one of the maybe European Brussels and Strasbourg, and maybe one Moscow, for Russian speaking. They can also have three current offices, three current presidents of 70s, and they also have first presidencies, current offices, current 70s, presidents of 70s. So, more. They might have in each of those areas, maybe some more weekend forums. Africa may start with one, and Europe can have four, five, and later it might also have some more forums. So I believe this vision, rather than the average at the moment we have, actually there is responsible to do something towards this vision to fulfill. I already realized that there is someone who done. I believe it's somewhat faster to Europeans, as the European mission is quite a long time there, and we was already Christians for many hundreds of years. And if we had any interruption, it was only by crazy American Mormons or crazy American Anglican Mormons that was attacking us by their psychotronic gifts they had. And they organized First World War, Second World War, Cold War, and we have the now only American military, maybe even Russia too. Harassing the politicians and politicians saying, how can we without them? The Mormons have such a power. That it's even worse than without American military. So I believe that we can, by international contract, set the actual the crazy American Mormons or crazy American Anglican Mormons like Mormons will not harass European Union citizens without American military, but also not with American military to withdraw into America. So this is a video of 3 times, so I think we can finally see. What can we do? I just read the baptism of Jesus Christ, listen, get down to our trust systems, okay, it's the only thing of honor. Each that person it has been baptized. The Church of Jesus Christ listens. Now, to get the English language, I believe we can sing, so let us sing our favorite one, and the favorite one of ours is according to Bible New Testament Gospel of St. John the Evangelist, chapter 13 or 14 or 13, 35. That you are my disciple, if you love one to another. First, I'd like to increase quality of singing. If anybody would like to help me, I think that not all Mormons are crazy, and I like to be those Anglican Mormons only until the Russian Orthodox or any other Mormons or members of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that I prefer to be named members of Jesus Christ. We have such a great company now with the crazy Anglican Mormon Monzo that he's absolutely sure 100% crazy Anglican Mormon. And his name is Monzo, and he has such a great Mormon company, Mormons. And I was thinking, why would you not name him rather Evil or Evil On? With an M, the letter of the M, the Roman letter M, the symbol of the letter M. From the alphabet, it looks like evil, I, V, and O. So why would they not name Mormons like Evil or Evil On, or Evil or Eve? Evil or Evil Eve. So I think that was better than Mormons. Mormons, that's awful swearing. And why are they swearing at themselves? It maybe doesn't know, it means to them something better. But if you read this whole scriptures, Mormons, wild places, white beasts, good letter. I think I'll probably start to act. It's really not so. Also, Mormon was such a crazy general that was killing people, many, and was not able to share the gospel. Disabled, crazy killer. So such names for people should not believe. And we are not Mormons. Mormon, that's crazy swearing word. We are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or rather members of the Church of Jesus Christ of our Celestial Saints. Church of Jesus Christ of our Celestial Saints. This is the future of the Church of Jesus Christ. So since we have not any gravy of crazy Anglican Mormon named Hinckley that was killing Mormons, for instance, in a Gulf War. He was sending members of the Church of Jesus Christ to be killed there, and then he was publishing about that this crazy Uncle Mormon Hinckley and that he was killing Mormons and that he is sorry not because he was then killing some more. And I'm actually appreciating anything good that Hinckley did, but please repenting from the crazy Uncle Mormonism and returning to Jesus Christ. That Jesus Christ is really supreme Lord and wants us to ascend to heaven, and that's how he's being there. We rather vegan farming, and we rather equality. I mean, each member, if there wants members, if the African residents of Africa are having $5,000 equivalent per week, if they're European, can also come to America or in Europe or wherever. Because that's what Jesus was. Jesus said, Jews, white, not mixing with Africans, Jews not mixing with dark Arabs or with the former Palestinians. And Jesus wanted only white people there with him, and so white people should permitted anywhere. And other races so will be bound to the geographical places. This was bound in China, Africans in Africa, Indians in India. Why? Because it's beautiful. Is it racism? It is not racism. Racism is that what Mighty Still is second to get with crazy Anglican Mormon Monson did, and it was war against, for instance, Iraq or Afghanistan, or war against Libya, or against Ivory Coast. They normally with Marshals attack Ivory Coast in great city somewhere in Ivory Coast, and they was firing the Marshals to the military warehouse with ammunition, and they killed about 10 children thereby. Or how many was killed? Say hundreds of children Ivory Coast was killed by crazy Anglos, Mormon Monson, and Alexander II. Alexander II was actually not involved. There was French helicopters, but in Europe Union we isolated, and I think there was some English, no, some British jets flying against this African place named Gaddafi. No, it's not Gaddafi. It was the Americans help me. I'll get some English help. So Elizabeth II's airplanes, the military jets, was flying against. Well, next to the Egypt, there's such cracks of Gaddafi. Well, Gaddafi was also assassinated there. Well, I'm not sure what was actually happening, but so far I remember that there was some British airplanes flying there with ammunition and was eventually shooting some people in Libya. That's where it was. Libya. Because this is racism. If Libyans are bombarded, I don't want the British are attacking Germans again or Slovaks as in first and second World War or the Cold War, but I want also Africans not attacked. So we need to think that even there's any him of United America between their left homes and war isolation, and that they have friendship together with Britain as military friends in Europe, and that they have very many friendship. But I believe that there's a time already in the 21st century to establish such a peace that is lasting peace, and not only in Europe Union, inclusive Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia, but the British and Americans bombarding also Europeans there, and all sorts of racism too. They would say the British, English, Anglican race, fine, maybe Germans, fine, because they already had the soldiers there, so they were fine there, but Yugoslavia was attacked, and we saw it. I have so I was seeing it was so extremely afraid of American Anglicanism that we was opening the airspace, and I was also in it. I was not understanding what was happening, so quite fully. But so far, I understood the Anglican military, the North Atlantic organization is bombarding Yugoslavia, our brethren of Slavia, and the government is absolutely afraid of the Anglicans, so they're opening airspace. So. Sorts of crazy Anglican Mormons, Monson could with Hinckley together put all the rockets and bombs on former Yugoslavia and split all those countries that are now named Slovenia, Czechoslovakia, Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I think that all those people shall be understated. I believe they are also crazy Anglican Mormon Monson shall be understated, but that's just I think FBI still help us because it doesn't look. They even confessing or they even declaring themselves as someone who needs to repent and ascend to heaven. It seems that they, even the first presidents of churches Catholics, is only sort of subjected themselves to these demons of war and death and controlling only to some extent of minimalizing crime in United America or minimalizing crime in New York City. And I believe that we should do something better. We should absolutely um, change and repent and have heavens on earth, even such as of Supreme Lord Jesus Christ, such a heavens on earth. And we have already Bible for so long translated to our languages. In Slow Republic since 863, according to the boundaries of Slow Republic was happening close by. So not Czech Republic, but Slovak was at that time, it was in Moravia. So since 863, in England since 1500, so it's only 600 years later. Our youngsters and of Christianity, and then we have this African religion there, African language they also have now. In China we have Bible in Chinese, maybe for 100 years. So I believe that it is now time for these hundreds of years. We have over 1,000 in 100 years in Polish and Ukrainian language too, Laholic or Cyrillic. So I believe that therefore in America, United States American president, if he is of African forefathers and doesn't want to go to Africa because he's American citizen, or however, but he shall help us with this crazy Anglican Mormon zone to not continue in these wars without really without any sense. It doesn't give sense. Even the crazy Anglican Mormon Monson is very able to lie to American president, to European president, NATO president, that this is necessary to do war somewhere because otherwise, what then? Maybe even I don't even want to say what crazy Anglican Mormon Monson was preaching for wild things, wild beasts, and eagles, and wild eagles and wild beasts, and arrows and sparrows and bears and shields with arrows and spears. So between the love homes and word isolation shall be maybe rather understood as between our love homes and between our love homes and maybe to continue like word isolation and it's interpreted to be interpreted in computer graphics. I just was playing story writers. I'm not saying that it's absolutely the best act, but it's all much better than to kill Iraqis or Afghans or Libyans or even to persuade French to fire the missiles into Ivory Coast and to kill there. So that's why I think that if anybody is in porno involved, because I'm sure that President Monson organized porno as a hell for members or as a punishment, I think that we need to change attitude that everybody, if anybody is in porno, they shall have right to return to the normal worship, and I believe that they shall not be harassed as worshippers to the porno again, or they should not be harassed for that they was important. But I believe that so rather vegan farming, rather vegan food, rather not killing animals, not eating blood and flesh and animals. And this is personally when I study my from different perspective, the same rules that are approximately three, and translation of our souls to heaven, so an ascension, for example, of Jesus Christ, you believe in ascension of Jesus Christ, and our ascension of Supreme Lord Jesus Christ, and of the Supreme Apostles in the form of celestial weddings, celestial marriages, and celestial families. Many think that no one who's married cannot stand. It is not true. Married people cannot stand. Whole wedding celebrated family cannot stand to heaven. They can continue in their wedding in heaven until they will then serve above the angels, overstepping angels, as married couples, and beyond. I mean, also the whole community cannot stand to heaven. We just need to sort of keep some simple principles of teaching doctrines that are most important, and that's transfiguration of Jesus Christ, ascension of Jesus Christ to heaven, and our own ascension. First vision of Joseph Smith, first vision of Frankie or Job or Jay or Jeremy. These first visions are important. But we have many members of the Church of Jesus Christ who had first vision. And of course, it's also important, but far as important as transfiguration of what Jesus Christ is now, and ascension of what Jesus Christ is now, own personal ascension too. Brothers and sisters, let us think that President Monson need to repent, President Thomas Monson need to cease to continue in anything else as translation of members of the Church of Jesus Christ in Heaven's Glory and admitting some more members and equalizing them. $5,000 per week is a very small allowance. We know that President Monson cannot fulfill duties of the priesthood except he's got at least $5,000 per week. And he's got an aeroplane, so it needs to be $5,000 per week. Those aeroplanes, stationaries, not only at home, also in office, Rolls Royce, or maybe any other gifts and any other endowments. There are so many. So to establish peace, we need to equitize and allowances need to be the same. Also housing, I mean, we know that if there are any family houses, it can be given especially to young people or to those single that serve a mission who wants to marry so they have cottage for their wife that she might come. But old and at this time crazy Anglican Mormons also need to rather think they are here as crazy Anglican Mormon Muslim shall rather think flags. It's small foot, of course. Why? Because he already had children, great-children, and children, and he should already vacate those who need to be released from any social homeless place to an appropriate place. So these were I studied in my head as such boundaries of approximate necessities of our ascension to heaven. Otherwise, we know what happened. What was happened with Francis Barrow Johnson Monson did. She was really decomposed because she loved a crazy Anglican Mormon Monson. She was dead decomposed, and she's not dead decomposed. Why is she decomposed? Because of militaries, they are harassing Europe, and it's American and British militaries. And they seemingly not harassing, but they're really harassing terribly by ideological heads like crazy Anglican Mormon Monson that is in America, and maybe also somewhat by the British royalty. So we need to know they also need to repent. I mean, the British soldiers will be only in Britain, and if they go somewhere else, they need to beat our weapons, beat our ammunition, beautiful dresses, missionaries, name tags, and yes. So they might not have anything happening with the soldiers. Also, American soldiers, if they have guns and ammunition outside of UK, outside of the United Kingdom, that might happen to them. And we don't know that they are injured or they experience any sorts of trouble. So that we know that make war abroad from the country is not correct, right? And if Germans was here, that's what I understand. So they can take all the weapons of Germany away. And they will come only to Germany if there's any weapon and death. If there's any weapon discovered. And how they can protect themselves, we don't have any protection, they are protected. For instance, by Soviet Union. The Soviet Union don't need to be in Germany. They will just protect them from outside the country, yeah. So if, for instance, Hungary might not be so intentions by Turks ever was attacking Austria, was it so? Militaries of Turks ever attacked Austria, but Austria and Germany. And if they was attacking Austria, so we might think that might happen again. So we might say the Soviet Union will have weapons, or today Russian invasion, and Germany will not have weapons, but if the Turks will again come to attack, as guided by crazy Anglican Mormon Monzo, he was doing also Turkey war in those time as well. So therefore, Soviet Union will immediately start to stop Turks from attacking Germany. So Germans will not get a weapon, they can have some teaching knives, that's it. They will not use a weapon, they will just be at home and they have some meals. So that's instead of having British soldiers in Germany harassing, for example, Italians too. They don't have any weapons. We can have few Russian ships somewhere in the Mediterranean, and we don't have any Americans there nor British there. This can be Britain and the Russians can stay there. Black Sea, they can have some ships also around. So let's protect them from Africans or from the Azorians. Maybe purpose they have weapons prepared to do ever need. Slovaks also have some because Soviets was there and Soviets is causing them. So I believe we can organize also without military. And if there is any guilt of President Thomas Molson in those two World Wars, the First World War, Second World War, and Cold War, I believe President Molson shall confess. So if they did take these wars, this First and Second World War, technically the Germans were still there, but was possessed by crazy Anglican Mormons. There was Joseph F. Smith, Habitat, George Albert Smith, they're making Joseph Hellbillies and how lovely Hatter and Gordon Hinckley was small. So if these crazy Anglican Mormons was psychotronically organized in this First and Second World War and Cold War, that was happening before, right? So they need to confess that it was them. Like for some terrorists sometimes confessing after any terrorist attack, this group was attacking a terrorist attack somewhere. So they was actually confessing and acknowledging that. So also, Christians and Mormons in Utah need to acknowledge if they did any such war. So according to Scripture, we know that Jesus Christ eventually was taking responsibility for any such acts. So we need to ask, therefore, that all those lesser groups, the first groups, will be told that it's Jesus who eventually was organizing it, almost persuaded to permit it to be organized. And we need to ask, is such thing will not continue, but that we might have celestial peace and celestial glory and ascension to heaven. So from politics, again to our celestial section, can we be translated to our ascent to heaven? Yes, Jesus Christ promised to us that if we will obey Him, if we will visit the church, if we will ask for activities, that He will make it possible to us to ascend. And any strong words, I think it's pronounced some of the schizophrenias. While the person is healthy, just needs some more of interpersonal abilities to be granted, not only by parents that started by Cold War, but also by the leaders that have um, outright persuade Lord Jesus Christ to do something for a different person. So far, I think that will be it. If there's anything that is beautiful, kind, you can send me a message, and I'll be excited to read the message. But I need to really compliment something like what I don't have as many offices to deal with complaints. So complaints we need to be actually switching on the compliment. Compliment is anything optimistic, anything like thank you for your glorious strive to ascend to heaven, or thank you for your glorious structure. So that person wants something, he need to get some other calling, because if he is in the calling of person of his presidency, the consequences are somewhat turbulent, especially in Iraq. But also here we have the soldiers, and they are not this flesh that President Mons is sharing, this bloody snacks that he is actually feeding missionaries with, that also not to be done. I remember as I was missionary, I was teaching anything what President Monson was providing there. President Monson was at that time responsible for missionaries. He was on the right hand of President Hinckley, and I was very grateful to God and to them that they were feeding me at all. But you know, if we are someone older, we already searching, striving within, and discovering what could we do better if they were feeding us flesh. But we need to ask that they're not tempting us of flesh, that we might have their only beggar option. And we will surely not go and travel to get blood and flesh, but we might have some more wisdom and then judgment. And maybe I was receiving interpersonal abilities before my mother was passing could live. And maybe also father could live. They was sharing with interpersonal abilities earlier. And Jesus Christ is already reminding me if I remember Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ is really the most important person for us to get to the presence of Supreme Elector, Supreme Yahweh. Brothers and sisters, let us be translated to heaven's glory. I testify to you that it is our necessity, or otherwise, as Francis Beverly Johnson also, or as Gordon Hinckley, those are decomposing dead. So I love you, and I invite you unto Christ to come. Bye. Help me to be white. White is personal as light.